Jeez. So today is known as Shabbat Shuvah, Shabbat of repentance, as it's the Shabbat that falls in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I think when we're in the process, in the month of Elul, and during these 10 days, when we think about Shuvah, we think about half of it, about apologizing, to think about what we have done wrong, who we need to seek out, or how we can change those things so we don't need to apologize in the future. But I think the part of accepting an apology is one that we don't give as much attention to, and I think it's one that deserves at least equal airtime. So I want us to have a discussion about that, but before we get there, let's take just a moment to think about an apology. What makes a good apology? Yeah, Andrew. Okay, so Andrew said a good apology is when you really mean it, that you feel sorry for causing the hurt that you did. Yeah, Shirley. Okay, so Shirley said you have to show that you understand what you did wrong. Bob and then Sarah. So that's working off of not just Andrew, but I feel like also Shirley. Bob said you have to take really responsibility and own what you did, and that is on you to do and not the other person. So the word "if" should never be in an apology. Thank you. Sarah. So Sarah's agreeing with Bob that it's not about the other person. It's about what you did and owning that. Again, if I hurt you, or should never be an apology. If there's anybody out there who was hurt by my actions, no, that doesn't work. And the word "but" should also not be in an apology. Anybody else want to add anything? You, Chuck. So Marion, quoting C.S. Lewis, says that, say that one more time. Important to distinguish between apology and excuse. We need to distinguish between apology and an excuse. Exactly. So that's where I think the "but" comes in. I'm sorry I hurt you, but I was da-da-da, or you were da-da. No. An apology is an apology. You got to own that. All right. Now I want us to think for a moment when the shoe is on the other foot. Why is it so hard for us to accept an apology? Okay, and let's assume for a minute that the person who is apologizing to you, maybe it's not the greatest apology of all time, but it's somewhere in the realm of what we were talking about. Why is that so hard? Are you answering that question, Desiree? I'm not there yet. Hold on for a second. I want to bring you something that Maimonides brings, and then we'll get to some of the answers. And there's a few of you here who studied with me over the course of the summer, and you may have studied this text. So this is from Maimonides' Laws of Shuvah, of repentance, from his halachic code, the Mishnah Torah. Shuvah and Yom Kippur only atone for sins between a person and God. For example, a person who ate a forbidden food or engaged in forbidden sexual relations. Okay, so Yom Kippur only atones for those kinds of sin when we, as we just read in the Torah, if we violate something from the Torah that hurts God, or in our tradition's mind hurts God. However, sins between a person and their fellow, for example, someone who injures another person, curses, or steals from them, will never be forgiven until they give the other person what they owe them and appeases them. At least Gabriel Lear, and I think someone else commented on that part when they talked on Rosh Hashanah, that comes from the book of Numbers, that it says, when you wrong someone, you owe them restitution, and you need to add 1/5 to that. That's the appease them. So he continues, even if they return the money that is owed, and here's his gloss on that 1/5, they must appease the other person and ask them for forgiveness. If the other person does not wish to forgive them, they should bring a group of 3 people and approach with them and request forgiveness. If they're not appeased, one must repeat the process a second and a third time. If they still do not forgive, one should leave them be. The person who refuses to grant forgiveness is now the sinner. So you may have heard this before. It's one of Maimonides' more famous teachings. But it continues, it is forbidden for a man to be stubborn and refuse to be appeased. Rather, he should be easily swayed. And when someone requests from his forgiveness, he shall forgive eagerly with a full heart. Now that we might want to push Rambam on. So why, before we get to why it's hard to accept an apology, what are some responses to an apology? Don't worry about it. Okay. Thank you for realizing what you did. What else? Yeah, Andrew. I accept your apology. The flip side of that might be, I don't accept your apology. I think you might say, I need more time. I make the decision to forgive you, but I'm still very hurt. And, as perhaps what this person in Maimonides' text is saying, I don't forgive you. And there's nothing that you can do to forgive me. So why is it hard to accept an apology? Desiree.
Sometimes it is hard to believe that the person really means it.
So it's painful. Desiree's pointed out it's painful to accept an apology because you have to relive what happened. Because if it was a good apology, which would make you want to forgive or put you in the space to be able to forgive, you're going to have to go through that situation all over again. Yeah, Mitchell. Okay.
It's sincere. I don't understand why it's different.
So Mitchell is questioning the questioner, and the question says he doesn't think it's hard to accept an apology. Ben, were you going to follow up on that? Yeah, and the famous Ben's pointing out that there's a lot of pressure, social, societal, communal, I think, as well, to accept an apology. Certainly when famous people make an apology, there's this expectation that we're going to forgive them so that we can move on. But yeah, I think that social pressure is not necessarily a good thing. Diane, Stephen, Chuck, or Chuck representing someone on Zoom, and then Andrew. Yeah. So Diane said that one thing that might get in the way of accepting an apology is that you think it might be difficult or impossible for this person to change, so that this person will do that again and cause that pain another time, and then you'll be placed in the same situation again. Yeah, I forgot the order. Okay, Chuck. So David Merowitz said that one difficulty is that you're no longer in the position of power. You know, you have the moral high ground when you're the aggrieved party. And when you forgive, you're back on equal footing, and, you know, feels good. It doesn't feel good to be hurt, but it feels good to be better. Yeah. And yeah, so I think that's similar to what Diane was saying. Susan said it might be hard to believe that apology, that it was sincere and that the person won't be saying the exact same thing sometime soon. Yeah, Christine. So Christine is pointing out the American phenomenon that we want to just move forward, brush this under the table, that, you know, something really bad might have happened, or even something not as bad as being the victim of the worst crime, of murder, or maybe one of them. But even for small things, I think our instinct is, you know, let's move forward, and that's problematic. Andrew, and then we'll wrap this up. So Andrew's looking to, did that happen recently? Oh, well, you know, I can't be held responsible for things that are going on in the world right now. So Bobby Kennedy's grandson. His son? All right, so we'll leave that one there. There's a lot to get into with the Kennedys. But so I want us to think about this. Maimonides has a phrase that the person who is who is being apologized to cannot have a hardness of face, which he doesn't say in that part that you need to forgive right away. but you need to present yourself physically, but also emotionally with the openness to being there for the person who is apologizing. Because I think there are times when someone wants to apologize for a wrong that they've done. We want to apologize, but we think the person will hear none of it. So we don't even have the opportunity to demonstrate that we are sincere, that we have changed, that we have fully taken responsibility and really thought about it. And I think that's where the Beit Din, the witnesses come in. This is a legal proceeding. And that we're doing this in the context of our community so that everyone needs to take ownership over this situation. So I want us to really try to think about not only what goes into a good apology, which we probably have to do often, and less often, someone is going to approach us asking for forgiveness. And when we're in those situations, we should really think about all of these things. The first instinct should not be to forgive, but to be open to the possibility that this person changed and open to the possibility that you can accept that. So we'll turn to Musaf, page 184.